Sports Talk with Elite Wagers.
Yo. Welcome back to another episode of Sports Talk with Elite Wagers. We're into week 12 of the podcast. Haven't been doing too well on the betting side, to be honest. Last week was a small card, obviously wasn't too much going on. Mainly some Premier League action and things like that. This week is looking like a better week to run through. So I'm going to be doing a bigger sort of segment for the fantasy side of things. So we got the EPL Monster, and then I'm also entered into a few more satellite contests, the EPL Big Six, a few sort of single match ones, Everton, Southampton, things like that. So I'll run through the EPL Monster fantasy selections, and obviously you can pick the same sort of players for these the mini games, if you like. As well as the fantasy side of the EPL Monster, I'm gonna look into the Formula Fantasy season-long contest, suggestions for some substitutes and things like that, transfers, trades in, who you want in and out and things like that of your teams. We've got some Premier League action as well this weekend. Not too much, a little bit of Premier League action. We've also got the FA Cup, which is this weekend. And then I've got a few future bets, if you like. So I've got a few plays for the remaining games of the season, which can influence the Premier League sort of as a whole. I've also got a little preview of the Europa League next Wednesday, the Conference League the week after, and then the Champions League the week after that as well. And then we've also got some Formula One, which is the Imola Grand Prix. We've got a nice big sort of slate to get through this week. I'm going to start off with the fantasy side of things.
Fantasy with FanTeam.
Okay, so here we go with fantasy. To the people that keep coming back, appreciate you so much. For those that are new, I am partnered with a fantastic app called FanTeam. They are the biggest fantasy sportsbook and fantasy platform in Europe. They have hundreds of contests each week, ranging from all sorts of sports. You've got hockey, NBA playoffs is ripe at the moment, some MLB, fantasy, Formula Fantasy, obviously Premier League action as well, and then more to come throughout the year, things like that. As part of my partnership, I do have my own sign-up link as well, which is in the bio for this. So click the link, deposit and bet £10, get £25 completely free. So, as mentioned, I will be using FanTeam for my fantasy, and I'll be getting into the EPL Monster for this weekend. Starting off in positional areas, I'm going to go through each position as a whole. So I'm going to start off with a good game in Nottingham Forest against West Ham, and I'm going to go for Sells. Sells this year is one of the best keepers in the league. He's currently the favourite for the Golden Glove. 13 clean sheets on the season, averaging around 3 saves per game as well. And in terms of fantasy, he's averaging 4 points per game, which is ranked 6th best for the goalkeepers. Like I said, he's most clean sheets in the Premier League. And although Forest are in bad form, they do need to sort of buck up their ideas if they want European football. They're on the verge of losing that European football for next year. West Ham do have nothing to play for. They've been poor all season. And I think this is a game where they really need to lock in. And, Sells having the third most saves in the league this year should sort of help solidify the back for Nottingham Forest in this game. The next player I'm going to go for is Jordan Pickford. Similar situation. He's a very, very good keeper. 10 clean sheets on the year. He is just slightly down the pecking order in terms of the Golden Glove contest. Averages 3 saves per game. Does have 2 penalty saves on the year as well. A few assists as well, actually. In terms of fantasy, he's the 8th best goalkeeper in terms of rank, averaging 3.9 per game. When you look at Jordan Pickford, he has the 4th most saves in the Premier League, so just behind Sells. He's going to be playing the worst team in the Premier League in Southampton. They do struggle to keep goals out of their net, but Southampton are struggling to score. So they've actually had 3 blanks in the last 5 games, and they've only scored 25 all season. So it's a good matchup for Everton and their defence. I think it's a good matchup for Jordan Pickford as a whole. He has also had a nice few points in the past couple of games. Also, he's a 4, 2, and 3, which is around his average, so not too bad there. The final goalkeeper I'm going to look at is Ederson. Ederson probably isn't going to be playing the FA Cup final. It's going to be Ortega, but he does have 9 clean sheets on the year. He's had 29 starts, so it's a better percentage than Pickford. Averages 2 saves per game. And in terms of ranking for goalkeepers, he's the 5th best ranked, averaging 4.3 per game. He does have back-to-back 6-point games for Man City this season. Well, in a row, actually, just one after another. As I said, 3 clean sheets in a row. 4 in the last 5 games have had clean sheets for Ederson. Going to be fresh off the FA Cup final. Obviously, unsure if he's going to be playing. Looks like it's going to be Ortega. Man City are fighting for those top 2 places. In the Premier League. Obviously, Liverpool already won the league. They're fighting for 2nd place. They're just 3 points behind Arsenal. They are also facing some pressure from Chelsea and Villa, who are 2 points behind them. So a lot to play for Man City still if they want the top 2 this year. And then moving on to the defensive area, I'm going to go for Branthwaite for Everton. So that's a similar situation to Jordan Pickford. 8 clean sheets for Branthwaite, 27 starts for him. He's got 1 assist as well. In terms of his fantasy production, he hasn't done too good this season. He's ranked 48th best defender, averaging 2.8 per game. That's mainly down to Tarkowski being the main guy for Everton for the majority of the season, but he is now out. So Branthwaite will be the main man now. So yeah, again, playing the worst team in the Premier League who struggled to score goals, 25 on the season. So looking pretty good for Everton's goalkeeper and defender. I'm also going to go for another player who plays sort of a mid team, if you like, and that's going to be Collins, who plays for Brentford against Fulham. He's fairly average this year. He's done pretty well in recent weeks. He's the 22nd best ranked defender on the season, averaging 3.4. But in terms of recent stats, he's ranked 4th best in form defender, averaging 5.2 per game. He does have 8 clean sheets on the year, 2 goals, 7 assists, which is really, really good for a defender. And in his last 3 games, he had 11 points against Forest. He then had 1 against Man United and then 8 against Ipswich last week. He's going to be in a similar situation playing against Fulham. Fulham, they've scored 4 goals in the last 5 games, with 2 games where they fired a blank. Collins does have 2 clean sheets in the last 3 games, as I mentioned, against Forest and Ipswich. Brentford have also kept 2 clean sheets in the last 3 head-to-heads against Fulham as well. So a little bit of history there going Collins' way as well. I think he's a decent option for fantasy this week. Next up, I'm going to go for 2 players in the same game. So I'm going to start off with Neco Williams. He's going to be playing West Ham, and it's going to be a pretty solid. It's going to be a game where it could literally go either way. You're looking for Neco Williams and Forest to sort of get themselves back on track defensively. They've been one of the best defensive teams in the league this year. Neco Williams, 10 clean sheets, 26 starts. Not done too well recently, averaging 3.1 fantasy points per game. Does have 1 goal, 3 assists on the season. But it's going to be a really, really tough game against West Ham. West Ham know that they can influence this game a lot by scoring a few goals. But again, similar to Sells, decent amount of clean sheets. And West Ham don't really have much to play for, so it could go in Neco Williams' favour. And the other player is going to be Wan-Bissaka, who plays on the other side for West Ham, and that's basically just fading their offence, the Forest offence. offensively haven't been very good this year. Wan-Bissaka sort of found his form a little bit now. He averages 3.3 fantasy points per game on the season, but in more recent weeks, he's averaging 4.2. In the last 2 weeks, he played Tottenham, where he got 7 points, and then Man United, where he got 12. On the year, 6 clean sheets, 2 goals, 5 assists, which is what they sort of brought him in for, as those assists, getting up and down the wings and things like that. But yeah, again, basically fading the Forest offense. Forest haven't scored many recently. They've only got 5 in the last 5 with 2 blanks as well, so they didn't score in 2 games. They are struggling to win games with pressure of European football. So although West Ham have nothing to play for, they would like to win a few games to end the season. And again, like I said before, they can influence this game a lot by, if they beat Forest, that's basically Forest done for the Champions League. So they know that they can cause an upset at the top of the table, even though they haven't had the best season themselves. Wan-Bissaka does have 2 assists in the last 2 games, and they were against United and Tottenham. Similar table position to West Ham, so he sort of found himself, playing well against the lesser teams. And obviously, at the moment, the form for Forest isn't too good, so you could go in Wan-Bissaka's favour in this game. So moving on to midfielders, we're going to go for Mbemo for Brentford. He's going to be playing Fulham. And, I'm a big fan of Mbemo as well. He's played very well all season. He's really, really crucial for this Brentford side. He's second best ranked midfielder on the season. Averages 6.2 per game. He's in form as well, 6.6 on average in most recent weeks. Does have back-to-back games where he got 5 and 6 against Man United and Ipswich. But on 36 starts, he's got 18 goals, 9 assists, which is absolutely huge. He's a huge contributor for Brentford this year. He does also have 9 clean sheets, which is obviously a little added bonus for this game. But he's just one of the best players in the league at the moment. He's really, really crucial for Brentford. He's got 8 contributions in the last 10 games. He's scored 2 goals in the last 3 head-to-heads against Fulham as well. And when you look at Fulham, they've conceded 50 on the season, and they've conceded 8 in the last 5 games. So it's a really, really good matchup for Mbemo and for Brentford. Brentford 6 games unbeaten, and they scored 12 goals in the last 5. So they're in goal scoring form, and Mbemo is certainly one of those names on the score sheet most weeks. We're going to go back to the Forest game again. I'm going to go for Jared Bowen, and I have mentioned obviously a defender and a goalkeeper for Forest, but the way Jared Bowen's been playing at the moment, it would be rude not to mention him at all. He's 4th best midfielder at the moment on the season, averaging 5.4 per game. But in recent weeks, his recent form, it ranks him at number 1 with 7.6 per game. So he's got 32 starts, and in those starts, he's got 11 goals, 10 assists, 8 clean sheets as well, adds a bonus there. But the last 3 games, he has accumulated 27 points in the last 3 games. He's got 10, 9, and then 8 against Brighton, Tottenham, and Man United. He's just one of those players that's sort of grown into the season as the season's gone on. Great form, 6 contributions in 6 games, and including 5 in the last 4 games straight. Forest have conceded 8 in the last 5. It's going to be tough facing a top defense. I can't get my words out. Sells statistically is the best Premier League keeper, but the in form Jared Bowen should be able to cause problems there. Moving on to the Palace and Wolves game, we're going to go for Eze. It's going to be no shock that we're going for Eze. He's been really, really good towards the last stage of the season, ranking 16th best midfielder. Obviously, he didn't have a good start, averaging 4.3 per game. But in recent weeks, he's the 5th best in-form midfielder with 7 per game. His last 3 games, he's got 9 points against Arsenal, 10 points against Nottingham Forest, and then 16 against Tottenham. So in 30 games for him, 7 goals, 8 assists, 9 clean sheets for the added bonus. But again, one of those games where not much is to play for anymore. Wolves near the bottom of the table, Palace sort of mid-table. but they are on a really, really good run of form. They've lost 2 in the last 10, excluding the FA Cup final. We're not going to mention the FA Cup final, but 2 in the last 10 games were losses. 16 goals in the last 10 games. 7 games unbeaten at home, and they've scored 14 goals in those 7 games. Wolves, on the other hand, they've lost 2 in a row, conceded 10 in the last 10. Eze has scored in 4 straight games, and he scored 5 in the last 4 games, so he's well in form. 10 contributions in the last 10 games. He's also scored 3 goals in the last 4 head-to-head games against Wolves as well, so he's well in form. He knows how to score against Wolves, and if they want to sort of end the season on a high, he's going to be their go-to guy to get those goals in the back of the net. And final midfielder is going to be Semenyo for Bournemouth against Man City. Obviously, I mentioned Ederson, but again, in terms of form, can't not mention Semenyo. 34 starts, 9 goals, 7 assists on the season. He's been heavily linked to a move with Man United. He's averaging 4.2 fantasy points per game. Recent weeks, his recent form is 5.6 per game. He's been a solid player for Bournemouth, obviously, hence the reason why he's been linked to a lot of bigger clubs. But just looking a little bit into this, Man City really, really struggled last week against Southampton. They drew 0-0 against the worst team in the league, so it wouldn't surprise me sort of if Bournemouth could sort of sneak a goal in this game. 4 clean sheets in the last 5 for Man City, but they've only beaten Forest and Everton by multiple goals, which obviously gives Bournemouth a good solid chance in this. Bournemouth aren't, however, doing very well in their recent weeks. 2 wins in the last 6 with 1 loss and 3 draws. They have scored in 7 of the last 10 head-to-heads, actually, including back-to-back games against Man City. Semenyo, obviously, a little bit of form recently, 3 contributions in the last 5 games, and he does have 1 goal in the last 2 starts versus Man City, so he could sort of cause a little bit of a problem there for Man City. Okay, then finally into the forward positions. I'm going to start off in the Fulham and Brentford game with Wissa. He's been obviously a crucial part to Brentford's success, just as Mbemo as well. In terms of Wissa himself, he's the 5th highest ranked forward in the league at the moment in terms of fantasy, 5.3 points per match. But in recent weeks, his form ranks him as the number 1 forward with 7 points per game. In 32 games, he's got 17 goals, 5 assists. Averaging around 1 goal every 2 games, which is decent. He's had 7 points in 2 of the last 3 games as well, so recent form is there. Again, similar to Mbemo, 6 games unbeaten, scored 12 in the last 5 games. Fulham obviously conceded a fair few goals as well. 5 contributions in the last 5 games for Wissa, 10 in the last 11, so consistency is there for him as well. Next up is going to be Jamie Vardy against Ipswich. Obviously, already mentioned him last week and the week before. Needs 2 more goals for 10 goals on the season before he leaves Leicester. Obviously, he's going to want to leave the club on a high. Obviously, trying to win the remaining two games doesn't do much to their league, but it might be a good send-off for them. And obviously, if he adds more goals, that'd be good as well. Both teams are very, very poor in general. Obviously, the bottom versus bottom team, both teams being relegated. He does have a goal and an assist in his last 2 games. But yeah, nothing great in terms of him on the season. 8 goals, 5 assists in 34 games. He had 9 points against Southampton and 5 last week against Forest, so not much there for Vardy. But the narrative is there for him. And then on the other side, I'm going to go for Liam Delap versus Leicester. Similar to Vardy, both teams very, very poor. Both being relegated. Both teams concede a lot, score very little, but Liam Delap has been linked to a big move to Man United. Obviously, for the remaining 2 games, he'd like to showcase himself to try and get that move solidified. He is the best chance for Ipswich to score. Not many players on Ipswich have scored this season. He has scored, a fair few goals. he's just their most likely opportunity to score. He's got 12 goals, 2 assists on the season. But yeah, that's not much to say. 3 goals in the last 6 starts for Delap. But again, both teams are very, very poor, so there's not much sort of form that they can go into this season. And then the final selection for fantasy this week is going to be Beto against Southampton. Now, he actually has a really good matchup. Obviously, he plays the worst Premier League team in the league. Everton obviously don't score too many. They scored 39 this year. But Southampton do concede a ton of goals. They've conceded 82 on the season. Beto has scored in back-to-back games for the first time since February as well. And when he scored back-to-back in February, he actually scored 3 games in a row, so he could tie that again in this game, going 3 in a row. Decent opportunity for him to continue and obviously end the season on a high note. In terms of his personal achievements and things like that, he's got 13 starts, 8 goals, which is a good return. In his last 2 games, he's got 6 points and 8 points against Fulham and Ipswich. Obviously now he's playing another bottom of the league team. And yeah, it's just another sort of narrative play where it's a team playing a very, very, very poor team. So I think we can get some decent points from the fantasy selections that I've mentioned this week. Obviously, I said earlier on I'm doing a lot of different contests this week, as well as the EPL Monster. I'm doing a few satellite games, which individual games. I think there's Everton, Southampton. I'm doing a few games like that. So you can sort of use the picks that I've selected for the Monster in those little ones as well, if you wanted to do those as well as the EPL Monster. But again, make sure you head in, or click the link in the bio for FanTeam. Head over to FanTeam, bet £10, and you get £25 completely free. And then with that £25, you can actually tell some of my plays that I've got coming up, which I'll speak about now.
Football.
Straight into the football this week. Obviously mentioned earlier, I've got a bit of a variety of plays in football this week. I'm going to start off with the Premier League games. We've got a double header on Friday tonight, and that's going to be Aston Villa against Tottenham Hotspur and Chelsea against Man United. So I'm actually going to do a parlay for these 2 games. So a double and acca. I'm going to go for Villa and Chelsea money line. So both of those 2 teams to win, and I'll mention why now. So the 2 games played on Friday night. The reasoning for the move from Saturday it was Sunday to Friday is to obviously give these 2 teams, Man United and Tottenham, extra days of rest before their final next Wednesday. So Villa will face Spurs. They should be heavily rotated ahead of that final. Especially, they've got nothing left to play for. As for Villa, they need every win they can get. They're just 3 points off third place Newcastle, meaning they do have to win both of their next 2 games to stand a good chance at making the Champions League next season. Villa have been known to be dominant at home, and they've lost just 1 at Villa Park this year. In their last 10 Premier League games, they've lost 2. Both of those were away games as well. Statistically, Spurs are the worst ever Prem season. This is the Spurs' worst ever Prem season, having 20 losses, 11 of those being away games. Villa beat Spurs 2-1 earlier in the season. This is an ideal chance for Villa to get some well-needed and well-deserved points to try and get into the Champions League places. Obviously playing heavily rotated Spurs, nothing to play for. All eyes for them on the final next Wednesday. I expect Villa to roll. Similar to Villa for Chelsea, playing Man United, who should be heavily rotated as well with the final upcoming. Chelsea also need to win their next 2 games. They're also 3 points off third place Newcastle. So Villa and Chelsea in a very similar situation as are Man United and Tottenham. So these 2 games could be identical. Chelsea are unbeaten at home in 2025, 7 wins, 2 draws. Man United have obviously been poor all season. Now, everything that they've got is going to the final next Wednesday. They've got no focus on this game tonight. So I expect Chelsea and Villa to both grab wins to help push for their Champions League places against 2 sort of weakened Man United and Spurs sides who are focused on the final, not in this matchup this week. So Chelsea and Villa money line. So both of those 2 teams to win at -185, which I think is very, very good odds considering considering everything left to play for. Next one, I'm going to go straight to. Oh, actually, no, where we're going to go? We're going to go to Leicester and Ipswich. Disgusting games between two relegated sides. I don't know why I do this to myself, but both are on 22 points. Both equally as bad. 35 goals scored, 77 conceded for Ipswich, 31 goals scored, 78 for Leicester. So very similar in terms of their goal scoring and conceding goals. Despite the fact neither can score, well, too often anyway, both of them do concede a lot of goals. That's basically what I'm going for on this, is goals. Ipswich has seen 4 out of the last 5 games go over 2.5 goals while scoring in 2 of those games. Leicester are 3 in the last 5 with over 2.5, scoring in 3. Both teams to score has hit in 3 of the last 3 head-to-head games since 2023. All 3 of those games ended 1-1, so both teams to score has hit in 3 straight. But I think in this game we'll be able to see some goals. Maybe to try and take some positives into next season, trying to get back up into the Premier League from the Championship again. Added to that, both teams have, they've got decent strikers, Jamie Vardy and Liam Delap. Both teams are very, very poor defensively, so I think this is a game, as I mentioned before, for Jamie Vardy and for Liam Delap. They're going to want to sort of showcase and have a nice send-off. And what better way than to score goals? I think both teams will want to win this game, and I think both teams will want to try and score a few goals so they don't get humiliated on the way out of the Premier League. So the bet for this one is going to be over 2.5 goals and both teams to score, and that's going to be plus 100. And then the next game I've got in the Premier League is going to be in the Newcastle and the Arsenal game, which is a huge clash at the top of the table between second place Arsenal, third place Newcastle. A win for Arsenal, that'll surely cement their second place finish, whereas a win for Newcastle will see them leapfrog Arsenal into second place. So again, a lot to play for in this game between the two teams. Arsenal have actually struggled recently. They've not won in 5 straight games. You add to that, they're without a win in 4 straight at home. Newcastle sort of know what they have to do. Their form showcases that they are capable of winning. They've got 8 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss in the last 10 games. Home or away doesn't particularly matter either to Newcastle. They have lost 1 in the last 5 away games. Newcastle lead the head-to-head 4-1 in the last 5 since 2023. They've won 3 straight. This pair have already met 3 times this season, once in the league and both legs of the EFL Cup semi-finals. Newcastle run out winners without conceding on all 3 occasions. There is a little bit of injury concern as well for Arsenal. Declan Rice, Gabriel, Kai Havertz, Leandro Trossard expected to miss the clash. Mikel Moreno as well is suspended. So there's at least 5 names there that may not feature in this game. With obviously the heartbreak that Arsenal suffered in the Champions League, they've seemed to have dipped from that loss. As I said, Moreno, who was their makeshift striker, is suspended, so all momentum goes with the visitors. They're in fine goal scoring form as well, 24 goals in the last 10 games. Newcastle seem to want it more, and I think down the stretch at the back end of the season they played a lot better than Arsenal. Arsenal have obviously had their sights on Champions League success as well, which didn't pan out for them. But with the safety net of getting a draw included in this bet is an added bonus in my opinion. So I'm going to go for Newcastle or draw at minus 180, minus 120. And then we're actually going to move back. Those 2 games are on Sunday, but we're going to move back to Saturday, which is the FA Cup final. Where's that? So FA Cup final, Palace and Man City in Wembley. Both teams obviously fighting for the FA Cup. Man City are serial winners of this competition. Palace haven't won it in 50 plus maybe. I don't know. That's not a real stat, but they haven't won it in a long time. But however, Palace are in good goal scoring form. They scored multiple goals in 3 out of the 4 games. They also scored multiple goals in the last 4 rounds of the FA Cup, and they scored 11 goals in the last 4 rounds. Similar for City, they've scored multiple in 3 of the last 5 games, and they've actually scored multiple goals in the last 5 rounds in the FA Cup, with 17 in total. Obviously, scoring 8 against Salford helped in one of the early stages of the competition. Over 2.5 goals has hit in 4 straight head-to-heads. Both teams have scored 2 or more in all 4 of those games as well, averaging 5 goals per contest in the last 4 head-to-heads. So there's been a lot of goals between these two teams. Palace have been Man City's sort of bogey team, and I did actually have a play in this game, this matchup a few weeks ago, where I had Palace to score 2 or more goals in that game, which obviously cashed. So there's a bit of history in terms of goals in this one. 7 of the last 10 finals in the FA Cup saw more than 3 goals as well. So again, finals like to produce these kind of goals. I can see this being a similar game to the previous matchups that they've had together. It's sort of an all or nothing game for both teams, isn't it? So they're both going to want to win. Palace will be the underdogs, which will sort of allow them to play more freely. Man City will have the pressure of winning the title again. Palace have been, the slight bogey team, as I mentioned, for Man City, scoring, multiple goals in the last 4 games, in the last 4 head-to-heads. Eze sort of finding form at the right time. He scored, 4 straight. So I expect Palace to start the game very, very attacking on the front foot, and that'll, maybe they can grab an early goal, and that'll cause sort of like a chain reaction from Man City to get back into the game, and vice versa. If City score first, Palace are obviously going to want to come back and score. So I'm expecting like a sort of a high-scoring FA Cup final. So I'm going to go for Palace and City over 2.5 goals at -125. But another small little lean, which is not official. I may take Palace to win the FA Cup. Basically out of spite for my Manchester rivals. The next game I'm going to break down is staying in the Premier League for now, and it's going to be Aston Villa to finish in the top 5 of the Premier League, and that's going to be at +125. Currently 6th, 3 points off third place Newcastle. Man City, Chelsea are above them. Chelsea are on the same points total. Man City are 2 ahead. Villa play Spurs on Friday, which I mentioned before. Spurs will rest the majority of their starters for that final. 4 days after the final, they'll face another team that were in that final in Man United, which again should be a slightly weakened team, as they'll have played the final 4 days later. Villa will be looking at a potential 6 points from these 2 games against Spurs and Villa. Chelsea face Man United on Friday, which obviously that should be penciled as a win. United should also rest players for their cup final. A tough matchup against Forest in the final week for Chelsea. That's a game that's a must-win for both teams. Forest have been one of the best defensive teams most of the season, so it could cause problems for Chelsea in the final week. It'll be tough for Chelsea to take a full 6 points, which is what Villa need. They need them to drop points in the last 2 games. Man City play Bournemouth next Tuesday. A team that's slightly out of form in a game that City need to win to get into the top 3. Then City will face Fulham, which again should be marked up as a win for them, potentially taking 6 points. Obviously, any sort of slip up for them will be good for Villa. Newcastle have obviously a tough game against Arsenal, which I do expect them to grab a point from at least. Arsenal need a win just as much to keep their top 2 position in the league. Newcastle trying to overtake them as well, with needing a win for them. They'll also then face Everton, who are a tough defence in the final week of the season, so it could be a tough final 2 games for Newcastle. But all in all, I think Villa have the best opportunity to grab 6 points from their remaining 2 games. If they do so, it puts them in prime position for a top 5 finish. And obviously they need a bit of luck and a bit of a slip up from any of the 3 teams above them in the latter stages of the season, the last 2 games. So Aston Villa to finish in the top 5 at +125. And then we're going to break down these finals. So I'm going to go for the Europa League final. Man United versus Tottenham in Bilbao. Underwhelming final in terms of league position. Obviously both of them are in the bottom 5 of the Premier League. Man United have had the tougher path to the final. They've had to beat Sociedad, Lyon and Bilbao, whereas Spurs faced Frankfurt, Bodo Glimt and AZ Alkmaar. Despite the opposition, Man United have played a lot better in the Europa League this year. They won 5-2, 7-6 and 7-1 on aggregate in the last 3 games. Spurs won 4-1, 2-1 and 5-1 against lesser teams. Spurs have obviously played United well recently. United haven't won in the last 5 head-to-head games against Spurs, but in a cup final, that's where Man United belong. They're more prolific in this competition. They've played at a higher level of football in this competition, and Spurs aren't used to this kind of pressure where United are here on a regular basis. United will be back in the stadium where they beat Bilbao 3-0 the best defensive team in the La Liga. So although it's scheduled as an away game, they'll feel just as at home as they will at Old Trafford here. Injuries aren't a concern for either team. Obviously, they should rest. Both teams should rest a lot of players on Friday. And I think Man United have the edge in talent and personnel, led by Bruno. He'll be hoping to lift the trophy at the end of this game. So I think Man United have the edge all over the field, and despite having a bad head-to-head against Spurs, I think Man United will be victorious. I think Man United lift the trophy, and that's going to be at minus 120. On to the Conference League final. Chelsea against Real Betis. Chelsea seeded as the number 1 team in this competition. Real Betis were ranked as the 15th seed. So there's a huge contrast in seeding. But Chelsea have had the easy path to the final, and they still sort of haven't shone. They played mediocre teams, and that obviously means their level dropped, and they sort of played mediocre football. Betis played a tough leg against Fiorentina. They can take a huge confidence from that game, and this will be probably the toughest task for Chelsea in this competition, facing Betis, who are on the verge of Champions League football again next season themselves. Betis have lost 1 in the last 10, scoring 20 in the last 10 games. Chelsea have lost 2 in the last 10, scoring 17. So there's a lot of goals been scored for both teams. And both teams don't really concede too many goals. But with Betis being the underdog in this game, I expect them to play with a little bit more freedom. Chelsea were expected to win. They were the early tournament favourites in this competition. So I think that the pressure may get to them a little bit, and I don't think they'll have an easy game in this final. So I'm going to go for Real Betis to lift the trophy at plus 175. And then on to the Champions League final. Of the 4 finals I've mentioned, so the FA Cup, the Europa League, the Conference League, and the Champions League final, this is by far the hardest one to call. PSG have obviously been exceptional, taking down Liverpool 2-1, Villa 5-4, and Arsenal 3-1. So 3 of the best Premier League teams all lost to PSG. Inter have also been really good. They beat Feyenoord 4-1, Bayern Munich 4-3, and Barca 7-6. So there's been a lot of goals across the last 3 rounds for both teams. But it's been a tougher time for Inter. Obviously, they've played very close games against Bayern and Barca. But I think PSG are the more compact unit with their, setting their sights on winning the championship. They're on for the treble, so that could be a bit more added motivation to win this game as well. PSG will be well rested. They're playing a heavily rotated squad in preparation for the final for the past couple of weeks. PSG arguably are the better team, and they are the better offense in this matchup. The likes of Dembele, Kvaratskhelia and Doué up front, obviously Barcola as well on the bench, a lot younger and a lot fresher due to that rest. Their free-throwing attacking style has won them the league early, got them into 2 finals as well. But Inter, on the other hand, they've also been really, really good. They've overcome Barca and Bayern, so you can't overlook them. It's not going to be an easy contest. So they're an experienced team. They'll know how to slow down PSG, but the question is, can they actually do it? Inter will obviously look to counter the PSG attack with a 5-man defensive play style. But I do, however, believe PSG have more to offer. Their defense has been tight, it's been decent. They do have the better attack, and although nothing has gone to plan, obviously 5-4, 7-6, and 4-3 games in recent legs for the 2 teams combined. I think PSG will master their game plan, and I think they lift the trophy at the end of the day. So I'm going to go for PSG to win the Champions League at minus 147.
Formula 1.
Okay, so moving on to my second favourite sport at the moment, Formula 1. Straight into it, we're in Imola in Italy for round 6 of the Formula 1 season. I'm going to go straight into my first bet, which is going to be a 2-unit play. So it's the biggest play of the card this week. Max Verstappen, top 3 in qualifying. I've mentioned it a few times. I've been fairly decent in F1 this season so far. Positive betting record, plus money in profits as well. This is one bet that I've come back to regularly. And it's Verstappen to finish in the top 3 in qualifying. He's got 3 poles in 6 races this year. 1 more finishing 3rd. That gives us a 66% hit rate so far this season. His average start position this year is 2.9, so that's obviously in the top 3. In Imola, Max has won the last 3 races in a row. He also has 2 poles and 4 total top 3 qualifying positions in the last 4. So in the last 4 races here, he's qualified inside the top 3. Max is obviously quality. He's often puts pressure on whoever's at the top, so that being at the moment Piastri and Lando Norris. He's known for his aggressive but talented driving, and he can always put in a fast qualifying lap. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see him on pole again in Imola this week. But for him to be in the top 3 in qualifying is -115, so that's a 2-unit play on there. Staying in qualifying, but moving on to a different driver, different team. Pierre Gasly. He's 50% on finishing in the top 10 in qualifying this season. He's Alpine's main guy. He holds all the hope after Duhan was replaced for this race. He's finished inside the top 5 twice here before in the last 5 races. Gasly's always competitive. He's a really, really good driver. Although his car hasn't been the fastest, he's been in contention for a top 10 qualifying in 4 or 6 races. His average start placement is 11, so he's right about that mark of getting in the top 10. At these odds, I like it enough to take a chance that he can find his way into the top 10. I think he's talented. I think he can do it. Pierre Gasly qualified in the top 10 at +135. And then moving on to my Mercedes boys. George Russell, he's had a great start to the year, qualifying inside the top 5 in all 6 races this year. In addition to that, he's converted those qualifying starts into decent points as well, also finishing inside the top 5 in all 6 races, including 4 podiums this year. He's an absolutely brilliant driver. He seems to get his strategy spot on to be able to finish as high as possible in the placement points every week. His rookie teammate isn't too bad either. He's taken Formula 1 by storm. A brilliant lap in Miami saw him take pole in the sprint race, and obviously a little collision sent him back to the back of the pack. Aside from that, he's qualified in the top 6 in 5 straight races. He's also been able to continue that into the race. Also has 5 top 6 finishes as well. So this duo looks really, really strong. They look to be the closest challengers to McLaren. George is a top driver. Antonelli's improving to be a top driver too. This is Antonelli's home race as well. He's Italian. This is in Italy, so a bit of added motivation there for him to perform well in his home country. I've got no doubts that these two will make the top 6 again, as they consistently have. So both Mercedes to finish inside the top 6, -115. And then the final play for me in Formula 1 this week, so far, is McLaren. McLaren have been really, really fast. One thing that has been known for the entire season so far is McLaren are fast. Not just one lap fast in qualifying, but full race fast. As a result, McLaren have had the fastest lap in 5 of the 6 races. Of those 5 races that McLaren have had the fastest lap, Lando has the fastest lap in 4 of those. Honestly, it's mainly due to him chasing down his teammate, who's always in front. Piastri has led for the most laps this season so far, Max Verstappen 2nd, and Lando Norris in 3rd, only leading 60. So with Norris chasing majority of the time, he's been able to really showcase his McLaren speed during races, obviously trying to chase down normally Max Verstappen. He gets that DRS slipstream as well, and when you get him on the soft tyre, he's the fastest on track. So I'm going to go for Lando Norris fastest lap at +135. For now, that's all I've got in terms of Formula 1. But don't forget to go over to my Twitter. I will have more plays as and when I see fit. So after qualifying, I may have a few more plays for the race as well. But breaking down the card, the full card for this week. In terms of football, we got the Premier League, the FA Cup. So we got Villa and Chelsea moneyline parlay at -115. Leicester, Ipswich, both teams to score and over 2.5 goals at +100. Newcastle or draw at -120. Then we got the future ones. So we got Palace and City in the FA Cup over 2.5 goals at -125. Aston Villa to finish in the top 5 at +125. Man United to lift the trophy at -120. Real Batista lift the trophy at plus 175. PSG lift the trophy at minus 147. Then we've got 2 units on Max Verstappen, top 3 qualifying at minus 115. Both Mercedes top 6 finish at minus 115. Pierre Gasly top 10 finish in qualifying at plus 135. Lando Norris fastest lap at plus 135 as well. So that's me all done, all wrapped up for this episode. This week's betting card is in full swing. Obviously, the first game kicks off in a few hours. And then we've got some solid fantasy selections this week as well. Obviously, make sure you get into all those fantasy contests over on FanTeam. If you're not signed up, click the link in my bio. Bet £10, get £25 completely free. Click the link the other link in my bio, which is my link tree. That'll take you to all forms of social media that I have. If you can go over there, like, subscribe, follow, it's all free. The more sort of interaction I get, the further this goes, and the more people I can help win money each week. So yeah, that's me done. Appreciate everyone listening for so long. I've got a little bit in the pipeline as well for next week. I'm going to try and do a video episode, so get over to YouTube, drop me a subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. But I'm going to try and do a video episode next week where I show you how I'm making my. Well, obviously it's the final week in the Premier League next week, and there's a big contest coming out on FanTeam. So there's a little spoiler for you there. Big contest coming out on FanTeam, which I'm going to be doing a video episode for, breaking down obviously my player by player, position by position, who I'm picking, who I'm captaining, all those kind of things, and showing you how I go about how I pick my team and things like that. So if that's a success, I'll continue that into sort of NFL season when that's out in a couple of months. And I am also in the pipeline of working on NFL future bets as well. So keep an ear out for that episode as well. But appreciate everyone for listening so long. I'll catch you later.